I'm Scott Allen Miller. It's the 12th of August, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua, and I am finally recording the videos on the day of once again, hoping that this means we're really looking at a good bit of catch-up. So it is a Saturday. It is relaxing. I'm hoping to do some fun stuff with you guys today throughout the day as we kind of explore the day together. We're going to get to all of that right after the bump. I'm actually recording this portion first thing in the morning. Well, not first thing, but I've been up. I had coffee. It's about 9:30 in the morning. So welcome, everyone. I know you guys are having your coffee, and I love that. So many people say they're actually having coffee when they watch me. That's so cool. Of course, my father, who I originally made the show for, doesn't drink coffee, so he's having tea and eggs or something with while he's watching this show. And I'm going to be working throughout the day today. This is like a huge show day for me, just from a logistics standpoint. I have nothing on my schedule, no plans to go out tonight. We went out last night, I'll tell you in a second. And I pretty much, in theory, this is famous last words, but have the house to myself today. Paul and Dominica just left to go to Managua. We're doing some important shopping down there. The goal of the day is to be coming back with a smoker. We have a really big commercial grill, not commercial, but a really high-end, nearing commercial grill here at the house. We love being able to do grilling. Of course, Paul does a lot of meat, and Yao is a kind of master asada griller. She worked at a number of asada restaurants before coming to work for us, has a lot of experience in some big volume, really well-known places. And then for Dominica and I and the kids, we love like salmon on the grill and veggies and potatoes, a lot of stuff like that. And with the new seitan we're doing, I don't know how well you can do seitan on the grill. I'm really interested to see if that could be a thing. You'll notice they're actually working on the trees back here. I heard them with a machete, and I'm like, where am I hearing a machete? And I look up, and I can actually see the guys over the wall trimming the trees back for the power line. So that's what they had to get up on a ladder with a machete. That's how it works. That's the actual power company up there. But now that we've shown that, I'm going to turn a little bit because the light's a little bit harsh on the lens, and I don't think that works out the best. This is a little bit better if it's harsh on my face, I guess. I don't really have an answer to that. We're going to walk over into the shade and hopefully get this a little bit better. But the GoPro does such a great job in the sunlight that it's really not a big problem. This is the GoPro 9 for the moment, and even though the 11 is a bit newer, the 9 just does such a fantastic job. Really interested. We're about 1 month away from month and a half. It'll be September, but often towards the beginning, they're going to be releasing the GoPro 12. Of course, they haven't announced anything yet, but we all know. I mean, it's the 12th one. They haven't missed a September release yet, so a new one's coming out. We have no idea what's coming. The rumors really aren't giving a lot of details, so we're not really sure what to expect. I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty low-key release, just kind of a very minor tweaks to the 11. The 11's fantastic. If the only thing they did was made it a lot more stable, that alone would be a really big deal. But it would be nice if they could go back and make the 11 stable as well. If they just released it in white, that would be a big enough update for me. I would go out and get one just because it's white. Hopefully something new, right? Someone did mention, David Manning, I think, that the new DJI Action 4 has hydrophobic screens. Not the lens. The GoPro has that. So for image quality, the GoPro's keeping up, but in that regards. But for the actual screens, supposedly it makes the Action 4 a little bit more usable in more scenarios. I don't really have a particular need for that, but I can see where that would be nice. I do notice that my screen gets dirty a bit, and keeping it clean, but it's not a big deal because it doesn't affect the image. Anyway, so last night we went out, obviously worked all day, it was Friday, but we had a major release of Nicaragua. So that was, for those who don't know, Nicaragua is a platform for showing events, activities, and things to do in and around Nicaragua. Well, in Nicaragua, not around Nicaragua. We're not doing Honduras, not doing Costa Rica, it's just Nicaragua. It is just a free website where you can go and get listings of like bands and cultural events, stuff like that. Look them up by department, and see, what you might want to go do, and it's all just listed chronologically. So if you're in, say, Granada, you can just go and say, oh, I want to see Granada, and I'm only interested in concerts, or I'm only interested in parties, right? And get a list of what's going on today, tomorrow, whatever. And so it's very simple, but it provides this nationwide index of everything that's going on and things that have happened historically. And you can go, look at individual events. You can share them through the site because you just get a link and you can say, hey, I'm going to this event, and put that on your Twitter or whatever. So major release of that last night to get the Departamento filtration working, which it is, and to get the typos, the type of event filtration working, which it is. Those were the big things that were really needed to kind of get it out there. So it was cool because we got it done. That got released by the team about 8 o'clock, and the concert tonight that we were going to, last night that we were going to, Monty at Via Via, was supposed to start at 8:30, but they had listed 9 o'clock on their invite, so we were running a little bit late. We didn't know. Our printers, Zen Creations, thank you very much. They're fantastic. They're out there in Ciudad Sandino. Shout out to them. So one, they did make me a present that will be showing up on the show hopefully next week. I'm excited about that. But they were making a whole bunch of our vlog shirts. So you've seen some of us wearing the Scott Alan Miller vlog shirts. Those are so many people are asking me for those. Not so many on the show, but I've been telling you guys they're not available yet. So there's a reason you're not asking. But people who are here in country are asking constantly, so we're getting many requests per day. We're having them print lots every week. It's going to take a little while before just like our inner circle of people and staff have them, like, and our staff. So this is another thing I have to mention. Yesterday, some of our staff here was like, how much are these going to cost? And we're like, oh my gosh, we haven't given them out to all the staff yet. And we're trying not to sell them to the staff. Like, we want our Nika team to have them, and that we're going to be selling them on the show. Of course, we can't afford to give them out to absolutely everybody, but here we're giving all the people that are part of our little ecosystem. For sure, they're getting shirts, so we're going to be getting those out. We'll get pictures of more people in shirts soon. But we went out last night. Everybody was in Scott Alan Miller vlog shirts. It was so cool. Like, we had a table of 14 people. Well, we had 12, and then Janet and Mancho were hiding in the back. But so we had 14 people in our group. Almost everyone was in the shirts. The printer, Zen Creations, had made a mistake, but not like a mistake, just a scheduling mistake. We have some shirts that are coming for Nicaragua next week, and they had accidentally done 3 of the shirts that were supposed to be Scott Alan Miller vlog as Nicaragua shirts, and they were really upset. We're like, we'll just buy them early, like, we don't care. And they're like, oh no, thank you. So we have Nicaragua shirts. So Marcella and I went out to the event tonight in Nicaragua shirts, which was perfect timing that Nicaragua basically went full live, full MVP this evening, and we had the shirts within the same hour, and we're able to go out and get a little bit of the word out. And some people like Alan just raving. It's so fantastic. He's like the biggest cheerleader of Nicaragua, but it's exactly right. He's exactly the target audience. He's been saying for 2 years, what's going on tonight? How do we find what's going on tonight? I want to go do things. What do I go do? And that's exactly what Nicaragua is for, to make it easy to say, I want to go out tonight. I want to go out tomorrow. And it's been so hard to schedule because you just don't know what's coming, and no one lists early. And it's so hard to plan because you don't find out what other people are doing. Like, there's just so much. And when you're like, oh, you know what? I got done with work early. Long day, but I'm not like tired. I want a beer. I want to do something. Where can I go? It's too late. You have to do all this like asking around and planning, and it's a big problem because we lack this. And so with Nicaragua, you're able to just open the website and say, here's the 8 events going on in my town tonight, starting from the ones that start right now, going to the ones that start, in 3-4 hours. And where do I want to go? Oh, look. Oh, this band that I really like. I didn't realize they were here. And real soon you'll be able to follow bands. So you'll be able to be like, oh, I really like Larry Emerson, but he's based in Managua. I'm not going to drive to Managua to see him. I have, but not normally. But I want to know when he's going to be in Leon, right? So you could follow just the band. Eventually we'll have follow the band with alerts when you're going to be in Leon or whatever. That stuff's down the road, but the bands are in there, the locations are in there, so you can look at venues you're interested in, you can look at bands you're interested in, that kind of stuff, and get it in lots of different ways. So that's very exciting, and it's very cool, and he's just so excited. He's like, this is the best website ever, but he's the target audience, right? He's exactly who we made it for, and so that was very cool. We had a really fun night. Monty was playing. This is the first time we've actually seen Monty as a band. Most of the band members, 4 out of 5, are from Cadejo. So it's kind of like the Cadejo lineup with Monty playing frontman instead of Franklin. Franklin joined us, was part of the group. Oh, and they came later. So we actually had 16 people, and they put on the shirts when they got there because we're still handing out shirts as people arrive, right? So it's been about 2 weeks of slowly getting shirts out to people as we're able to coordinate, as we're able to get enough printed. But it's pretty neat that we are at a point now where sometimes we run into people, like you go to the grocery store and you're walking down the street and you'll see someone in the Scott Allen Miller vlog shirts. It's pretty cool. Liking that a lot. Really want to get caps made. Not this cap. This is a driving cap. This is a regular cap. But I want to get baseball caps made, and we're trying to find a vendor we really like with style that we really like. The T-shirts have worked out. This is not one of them. Have worked out fantastically because I believe they're being made in Nicaragua, or at least some of them, and the quality on them is excellent. Like they're light and comfy and feel really nice. They're mostly cotton. And when we're buying shirts in the States, we'll go back and buy a bunch of like these. We bought tons in bulk, but they're not to print. They're just blanks. Just because we need shirts to wear and it's hot, so you go through a lot of T-shirts. Well, we're getting better quality ones, cheaper, local, printed. So it's actually cheaper for us to get Scott Allen Miller Vlog and Nicaragua shirts to get the word out about things and just get people going, hey, what's this? Now, the new Nicaraguas, right now, they're only printed on the front. We're going to add, we think, the big maracas, because that's the emblem of Nicaragua, on the back so people can see that logo and get like, I know what that logo is. Where have I seen that? Right? It's Nicaragua. So that's something that we're trying to do really soon. So the concert was really good. We had a lot of fun watching Monty. We had a great group there. It was just a really good night, and good crowd at Via Via. Not too packed. We did live streaming, so if you saw Monty at Via Via Part 1 and Part 2, which actually posted almost a week ago on the channel, that was the night we were there. That was it happening in real time. Like, this is the time shift, right? When I do live events, they're almost a week off from when I'm talking about it, right? It can be really confusing. Wow, we have a plane coming over. This never happens. Whoa, we're going to get it. Never, ever, ever do we get that. That, like, never happens here. So that was a little bit surprising. So we had a really good turnout. I did the live stream, so you saw that I was about a week late. And then I also set up the good camera and recorded, I hope, basically the entire concert on the good one, which would be a completely different experience, right? The one's in like 720p, and it's like on the camera and it's super close, and who knows how the audio was because it was right by the speaker, but that's kind of how you have to be. And the other one was way back in the room on a tripod, looking over everyone in 4K on the really high quality camera. So we'll see how those turned out when we get a chance to look at them. I have not even seen the footage. I have no idea if we even got working footage. So we'll see. But we did a lot of recording, and I had the Nikon D3500. We were running around doing stills because we're doing promo stuff for Nicaragua and Nicagram. Nicagram is the Nicaragua Instagram-like experience, photo sharing site. So it's perfect if you're going out to events and you want to get pictures of restaurants or foods or venues or concerts or bands and your friends, that is stuff. Perfect. All the stuff you do with Instagram. Nicagram, just for those of us here in Nicaragua or friends of people interested in traveling to or whatever. If you'd like to make an account, it is free. Go check out nicagram.com. But we did a lot. I've been doing, because this gives me an excuse, right, to get my photography hat on. Go out with my good cameras, my good photo cameras, my DSLRs, right? Because I'm a photo guy. Like, I come from a photojournalism background. I like having an excuse to put on the big lenses and take out the DSLRs and have no video capability whatsoever. I know that's crazy for people who watch the show and they're like, Scott does something that isn't video. I know, right? Like, it's crazy. But I really do like photography, and having the DSLRs is a pure photo experience. And I've got my antique ones like the D3000 and my modern one like the D3500. And I love the quality that it does. Nikon does such a great job, and it's a lot of fun to do. I find that the tactile experience of those cameras is very good. So that's fun. So I did that, and Marcella took the camera and did some as well. So I think we got a lot of like promo shots and things that we can put up and be like, this is what it's like. This is how shows should look, right? And promote people getting out there and doing more photos. And then eventually Nicagram is going to feed photos to Nicaragua. That's going to be really cool. So that's one of the reasons that we want to have it, is so that we can showcase how those are going to connect in the future. So that was our night last night. Paul had driven, so I was able to just hang out. I didn't stay for the entire concert, so there's some at the end that I didn't get. But it was already pretty late. It was like 11 o'clock when we left. I've had very little sleep. And last night we had an emergency, and I was out all night driving. So the idea that I was going to stay out late tonight, no, absolutely not. We have a lot coming up. Tomorrow is the day we're planning on heading to the Ipico in Granada, and so I got to be rested because that's going to be a lot of work. And then the day after that, we have a lot going on as well. So got to get some sleep and catch up, which I did. Last night was good. I got a lot of sleep. And so we came back at about 11 and just called it a night. And the girls went out and we're gone all night. I haven't even seen everyone yet this morning, but it was about 4 o'clock that the first of extra people was straggling in. So a very late night for everyone. So that was our catch up on the night. That's where things are. I've got a busy day of filming that I'm going to go get to. Our second adventure of the day was finding something rather surprising in our kitchen. So we are vegetarians. We try not to hurt animals whenever possible, and we have had a number of mice around the house, which is just normal, right? We have a house where the doors are open all the time, so we try to just discourage them from coming in. It's tile floors, keep things really clean, and for the most part, you don't get any. But we do have a big garden. It's really easy for them to come in, and that is Gordy in the background yelling because he wants attention. So we eventually had some mice come into the house. We've been trying to get rid of them, and we put out some humane mouse traps. And as we catch mice, we do what we did long ago. I take the traps, I carry them off somewhere far away, and release the mice into a field or something where they're hopefully not going to return and not do any further damage to people. And of course, mice don't cause too much of a problem. The real problem is getting them around your food or places where you may breathe their excrement, because that is very dangerous for people. Anyway, so we have these traps, and normally we check them, and very rarely do we catch anything. We've caught about 5 mice so far, and for all we know, a lot of those mice are coming in from the outside, not from inside the house, right? They can see the trap come in from the outside and get caught in the trap, and then we take them somewhere else, but at least then we're moving them out of the yard. Anyway, so Liesl went into the kitchen this morning. We have 2 refrigerators, and in between them we have a trap, and Liesl's like, oh, and she comes and gets me, and she's like, Dad, we've got a snake in the mouse trap. I'm like, we've got what now? So I go into the kitchen, and it's kind of in the dark, and I'm like, oh boy, like I gotta get down, I gotta get this trap, gotta get this snake out of there. Because remember, these are humane traps, so there's a snake fully in the trap, so it's in like a cage. And so I had to pull it out. I'm like, okay, it's contained. So I pull it out, but of course lifting it makes it a little bit more likely to be able to get out. And we brought it outside and we looked at it. And for those who have never had to learn this is something everyone should know, at least if you live anywhere near warm climates. There are 2 types of snakes that look very much alike. The king snake, which if you're not familiar, is a very popular pet snake species or order. I'm not sure exactly where species falls into that, but it is a group of snakes that are benign and generally helpful. They keep other things away from your house, and they're really completely safe. They're very popular as pets because they're safe. They might be able to bite you, but they can't actually hurt you. And they tend to be pretty docile. But their main defense is looking just like the incredibly venomous coral snake, which are less common and incredibly dangerous. They don't tend to be able to break skin, so coral snakes don't generally threaten human populations, but they can threaten your pets, they can threaten children, and on the off chance that they break your skin, you can have a major problem. So because they can easily cause death, so you have to be very careful. Well, there's a standard rhyme or phrase that people should have memorized, which is red and yellow kill a fellow, red and black venom lack. And I had to learn this as a small child. I don't know why. I don't know whether it was in school or just like educational books that I had. But I learned this very well, very young, and have always been able to identify king snakes and coral snakes. Now, I grew up in Western New York where we don't have coral snakes, but we do have king snakes. We used to have them in the barn. So we didn't have to worry about getting it wrong, but you could look at the snakes and know what it was, right? But you'd be like, yep, they're all red and black. So we got this one out, we got it outside, and of course it's red and black. It's not venomous. It was not dangerous at all. It was relatively small. So I took some time and actually identified that it was a Stewart's milk snake, which is very hard to find pictures of, very hard to narrow it down, but that is a Central American subspecies. It's very similarly related to the Guatemalan milk snake and the Honduran milk snake, which of course have nothing to do with milk. There is a myth that they would be found around milk buckets or whatever. They're often in barns, and so they're called milk snakes. They're just part of this king snake family. Nothing to worry about at all. So I took him and I walked him and released him. So that was our adventure, though, today, that we had this snake in the house. And Liesl correctly, she's like, nope, that looks like a king snake to me. So she knew exactly what to do as well. She was very interested, though. She's not at all. It's funny because she's very afraid of like insects with especially moths. That's like her number one thing. Can't handle moths. And with mice and lizards and snakes, all of them, she's just like, cool, things that live in the house. Like, no concern whatsoever, right? It's funny that it's so dramatically different. I have a little dog at my feet. So that was our midday excitement as and videos are going well today. We're actually getting stuff done, staying on target to get a lot of work done today. Have uploads going all throughout the day, which is fantastic, and that makes for some good video footage. Having a snake to take out, so. It was kind of neat that happened. Something a little bit different. That was the first time we've encountered a live snake since I've been in Nicaragua. I encountered one that was hit by a car, like run over, and that was like 2 years ago. And then this is the first live snake I have seen since being in the country. Because someone asked me, how often do you have encounters with snakes? And the answer is really infrequently. There's plenty of snakes here, I guess, but you really do not run into them. And some people who visited recently mentioned to me, they're like, I really expected to encounter a lot more wildlife in Nicaragua. I guess people have the impression, I get it, like it's a jungle country, so there must be like just wild animals everywhere, and it's not like that. Like Western Nicaragua is, first of all, not jungle. It is savanna, and it is very well populated since into antiquity, since far before the pre-Columbian era. So the human element has been here for so long. And it's a savanna, which is not that loaded with animals, that sure, we have little snakes and we have mice and we have, the normal things you have anywhere, possums and raccoons, but we don't have this huge amount of like exotic wildlife or things just, all over the place. If you have a homestead or whatever, you're not seeing wild animals wander through even relatively countryside areas of Western Pacific Nicaragua. Remain for the most part very domesticated, and seeing wild animals. You're going to see a sparrow, you're going to see like just normal wild birds, but seeing anything exotic, anything that you would not expect to be around humans, not something you're going to run into. So that was our adventurous day. The snake thing really set it off. Other than that, it was really just a work day, and I didn't have a lot of other things to talk about until we went out this evening. We went to, as I mentioned, we went to Via Via and did the show with Monty. We actually had a really fun time tonight. A couple things that I want to mention, we'll talk about it in the future as well, but we went out and had a lot of the t-shirts were out. We had 14 people out wearing either my vlog shirts or the Nika Roomba shirts. We had a really good time that we took out this camera that I'm on now and did some recording. Notice the new wall is only our second episode showing it. And also did a live stream at the same time, which was cool. I mentioned this earlier. And then used the Nikon and went around and did photographs. So this is really fun. I mention it again because I just had a conversation. I was wondering what the end of today's video was going to be because we only had this concert that we did in the evening, but I think that concert story highlights something that just came up. I just had a conversation with Frank Javier from the channel. You guys see him commenting all the time. He's one of our biggest supporters, both in comments and in like get out there, support the channel and money. And so thank you so much to Frank, who's such a vocal supporter of the channel. But we were just talking because he's here in town about how difficult it is to get time on my schedule and to make contact with me. And not that I'm impossible to get a hold of, but I'm not easy, right? Because a lot of reasons. And I think this brought up that I don't know how much you guys watching the channel really understand what my life is like, because of course you kind of get the Instagram version of it. And I don't mean to do that, but it happens naturally. I don't have a camera on me all throughout the day, and the last thing I'm going to do is bring the camera with me as I'm eating breakfast or in the shower or, just sitting there writing emails and stuff. And so there's a lot of my day that you guys don't see, and you guys get these highlights of interest. And even then you'll notice a lot of it's pretty boring. But you see me in the garden or whatever, and you probably imagine, and it occurs to me that this is what's happening, that people will see me like out in the garden and say, oh, he must spend so much time relaxing in the garden. I don't. It's not something I do. You see me all of my time in the garden. I'm only in the garden if I'm filming. And you may think, oh, he gets to go for long walks everywhere and gets to go all these cool places. Not really. Every time that I'm out for a walk, I'm on camera. You see all of it in many cases, or just about, right? You may not see me getting to the interesting place, you may not see me parking the car, but a whole bunch of it. I film when I drive from place to place in many cases. I film events that I go to, almost all of them. And tonight's event, I think, is a great example that not only did we film the event, we live streamed the event, we commented on the event as we were there, we were posting on social media, and I was taking photographs, and other people were working as well while we were there. Plus, we were, this is where we were hanging out with our friends, huge group of friends that we're hanging out with. And I think because my life is so different, and not, oh, I live this charmed life, it's someone, no, I have always, from the time I was very young. When I started work at 13, I worked an overtime job at 16. By 18, I had 4 really critical jobs the year that I was 18, including being a software developer, being an IT manager, managing other people, and being an industrial engineer, right? I made huge money. I was really successful, all at 18, right? And I had done a bunch of stuff. At 17, I had been a newspaper photographer. If you work with me professionally, it's become a bit of it's kind of a joke in many of the industries that I work in. And notice I say things like many of the industries that I work in, that I've worked in everything, that no matter who you meet, they'll be like, well, I did this. I mean, I've done that job, but I've been in that industry. I have some connection because I've done everything. And people say, how have you done so many things? And there's a couple things to that. One is that I've always taken jobs. I started working early, and I've always worked. When other people went to college, I worked. When other people were in high school, I worked. When other people took summer vacations, I worked. When other people slept, I worked. From the time I was 18, I didn't do this. Well, this is not exactly true. My first week of work when I was 16, I worked until 2 a.m. every day, which was illegal, but I did, right? And they paid me overtime for it. I always did side projects. Before I was working, I was writing software. I was learning new things, and I never found those things interesting, particularly in like I'm making video games kind of way. I did it because I liked it from a work kind of way. How would this turn into a career? From the time I was very little, like 8 to 10 years old, I said, I want to be a software engineer someday, and not I don't want to make video games. I want to work in businesses making software. And so that's always been my personality from the very earliest. And I always approached even entertainment, such as when I did play video games, because I do enjoy video games quite a lot. When I would play video games when I was younger, I would journal them. I would write about them. I would take it very seriously and really get into the games and take it to a very different level. Not that I was such a good gamer, but I was a very serious gamer. For example, I played The Bard's Tale, and I journaled my gameplay of The Bard's Tale, and I used things I learned from playing The Bard's Tale professionally today to teach like professional development, career paths and stuff, because I have this history and I'm able to put that together. I was a performance guitarist. I did many of my careers at the same time. I would manage hotels during the day and get free time between shifts to go play concerts. And at night, at night I would manage hotels. During the day, I would play concerts. And then anytime we would get consulting work. This is when I was in my early 20s, and go work IT consulting jobs as much as possible. When I was first in IT and I lived near Binghamton, New York, we took every single weekend job ever. Every company, every consulting firm knew they could call us, and if someone else hadn't already called us, we would take the job. It didn't matter how many jobs we were working during the week. It didn't matter how busy our personal lives were. If there was another job, we would take it. And so I would work 2 or 3 or even 4 jobs in a week. I'd be doubling up. There would be times I wouldn't sleep. And to some degree, that was foolish, right? I pushed really hard. But I didn't want to go home and watch television. It's okay. It's not that I don't like television. It's that if I have the opportunity to be doing something productive, I'm going to choose that. And that's always how I've been. And so one of the reasons that I started my own firm in 1999 is because I wanted, and Andy, my co-founder, we really sat down and said, we want a way to be able to work for ourselves, because we want to be able to reward ourselves when we push harder. We don't want to, get kicked out of the office because you're only supposed to work a certain amount, or we don't want to be punished for doing a good job when you're just supposed to sit there and not say anything, or we didn't want to not get paid if we were doing extra work. If we're going to do extra work, put in those extra hours, we want to be the ones who benefit from it, right? Because a lot of companies, well, we're going to pay you a salary, and if you're like, but okay, everyone else is leaving after 45 hours. I've got energy. I've got ideas. I want to do things. at that point, I would just be donating them, right? Everyone, there's all these, as someone who employs people, there's always those moments where you're like, oh, we need someone to push through. We've got so much going on this week. We just got to get through. But as a good employer, we're also like, okay, take that time off next week. Don't let this become a working for us for free kind of thing, and don't let it be a burn yourself out kind of thing. But once in a while, there needs to be some flexibility, and I think that's a good, healthy environment. But you got to have both sides. The employees got to understand that. The employers got to understand that, and you got to mesh and work together on that. That's what makes it really good and healthy. And different employees work different ways. My head of the company, and you guys know her because she does the thumbnails on here and stuff. Totally not her real job, right? She's actually an executive in a corporation, but for Valentina, she's very much this is the time she starts, this is the time she takes lunch, and she's checking out of work. If she really needs to stay late, she will. But it's got to be hey, can you stay late? Oh, sure, right? Let me shuffle some things around. But if you say, okay, see you tomorrow, boom, she's disconnected and she's out. That's how she works. That's how she maintains work-life balance. For me, I'm completely the opposite. If I had to work the way that she does, I'd be so stressed. I'd be like, what's going on at the office? I'm not watching. Oh, there's things that could be getting done. Why am I watching TV? I could be getting those things done. That makes me feel better, right? If you forcibly disconnect me, you force my brain to go into overtime working instead of resolving its problems by sending that email or whatever, right? So it drives me crazy when you look at places like Europe that are like, we're going to force people to disconnect and not allow them to work. And you're like, wow, that's so choosing which type of personality you're going to consider good. And other people who have other working styles, too bad. Right now, I understand that if you do nothing, you risk that the other styles like me get rewarded and others get punished. So there's a balance, right? But that's why you get paid by the hour, for example. Then companies are like, nope, we're not going to pay you for more work. See you next week. Then you can go take another job if that's what you want to do and get rewarded by them. There's systems for this that don't require you to sever connections with your employees and make them stress out unnecessarily. But if you're Valentina, you have to do that. That's how you keep her from stressing out. If you're me, you can't do that. It will destroy my life. So because of that, I have a company and this is how I work. But what is hard to understand about me is that I will voluntarily fill all of my spare time with something productive. Now, I prioritize spending time with my kids. So if they're like, hey, we're free, we want to play video games, or we want to go out and do a thing, we want to go to Dr. Coffee and get coffee, I go with my kids and I sit there and I generally don't work. I'm still often checking, like when we go, and my daughter Luciana is exactly the same. She doesn't realize it, but she's exactly the same. We go to Dr. Coffee to get coffee, and she always takes an iPad. And every time we're there, but from the time we sit down until we leave, she will then turn around and show a portfolio of work that she has created during the time we were having coffee. She'll participate in the conversations, just like I do. I'm often looking at my devices and answering people or making sure that people don't need me and just overseeing things. I don't get sucked into something so I'm not paying attention, but it's like I'm making sure there's no messages. I'm making sure I'm on top of things, checking my schedule, whatever, allowing myself to have the freedom to focus because I'm not worried about stuff. And my eldest daughter, she'll more likely not have to fill that time. She'll just enjoy the coffee, she'll slow down, but not necessarily. She'll still do stuff. But my youngest, she will never let that time go without being filled. And getting her to sit down and watch television, not going to happen. Watch a movie, not going to happen. Doesn't like going to the movie theater. Why? Same reason that when I was her age, I had this little tiny TV. It's about this big. I have mostly forgotten about this. It was a under the cabinet kitchen TV, CRT. It was about this long, this big, color. And we used to have it in the kitchen, but we didn't have it there for very long. I convinced my parents to let me take it down to our computer room. We had things like that back when I was a kid, and we had this big desk set up with my Commodore Amiga 1000, and that's where I did all my programming and video games, all that kind of stuff. And I used to primarily, maybe not primarily, but a lot of the time I would have that television sitting above my monitor. And I would have TV shows on, often sitcoms and often ones that had reruns, right? Like Are You Being Served, or these old British shows. And they would be on while I was working. So I would have that noise. I could look at them, but I didn't have to focus. They didn't have to entertain me every moment. I was doing something, but they made it that I wasn't completely not relaxed. That's exactly how she is. She has a TV on once in a while. She plays plays video games with her cousin. When she does, she's got one screen over here with her friends on it, and they're all communicating. And then she's got the computer that she's actually playing on, and they're playing an interactive game together. And sometimes she'll have the TV on, and maybe she'll have something else going. She has so many things going on. She's filling her time. Now, she's 12, she's not working, but she might as well be. In the same way, because for her, work is doing artwork primarily. She wants to be an illustrator for video games, and she's constantly exploring new art styles and different approaches and doing just practice, right? She's drawing more than she's working on her 10,000 hours, and she's honestly very close, right? And my eldest daughter, very similarly, it's not exactly the same kind of art. She's working on digital animation, and similarly, she has an insane number of hours into it that she does this. She fills her time working on these things, or she works on actually making video games because she wants to be more of a video game designer than an illustrator. And so they have these interests that they do all the time. They put all this work into it. You never find them watching TV. You never find them just idle. And they get that from me. I can't do that. I don't find that entertaining. But most people do. Most people have no idea that people can live this way happily. They think it's something that's forced on people. And so I'm extreme, and I was showing Frank that there was, and it blew my mind how long ago this was, but over 14 years ago, I used to, at that point for 6 months or so, I had been heavily participant on a online professional community. These whole kinds of things have heavily fallen away, but there was a time from the early 2000s through about 2016 that there was this massive push for online professional communities, and people who are Gen X or late, the older millennials, you'll remember this probably really well, and those who are younger will be like, that was really a thing? Especially the Gen Zers will be like, I never knew stuff like that existed. But instead of having Discord or phone calls, we would actually go on forums. People would say, here's a problem I'm having, here's an idea I have, and people would discuss it, and it would be really active, and every professional you met was on one of these. And so I was very, very participant in a few, and I had been going way back to the 90s. In like 1997, there were boards like this, and I remember me and like one other guy were so active that we figured out that a lot of reward programs like you could win prizes by being so participatory in the community. And we figured out those things were scams because at some point we figured out that the two of us had something like 90% of all the participation over a period of weeks because we did so much, because I had a job that let me do that. So I was just constantly doing this stuff. It was like professional trivia where you'd like answer trivia questions, and we were the highest scorers by no small margin. We won all the things, and it was like if you win X amount, there's like, this is the chances of you winning some prizes, right? Oh, you're gonna get a computer, you're gonna get a new mouse, whatever. And neither of us ever won anything. And we figured that statistically we should have won hundreds of things during that time, not zero. And that we never met another person who had ever won anything, but statistically we were the pool, right? And it was really designed that anyone who was participating should have been winning something, and so they would use the, well, someone's not going to win anything argument, and those people would say, well, yeah, I guess there's always that chance, but we were statistically so significant, there was no chance we wouldn't have won something, so we knew the system was fake. And obviously those kinds of things, it's a really easy thing to fake. Online prizes, or how do you know someone won that? And I've even had stories of communities like that where in person they scammed people and would like hand out the prizes and then be like, oh, sorry, we don't have the prize here, and then just not send it, right? And even, fight, I had one, we actually had to take them, we had to go get a lawyer, right, before they would send it, because it was a really big prize. And technically we owed taxes on it, right? Once you win a prize, you owe taxes. The government's not gonna be like, well, you didn't make sure it arrived, So you're gonna owe taxes on thousands of dollars of stuff that you won. You better actually get the item or turn it down, but you don't have the ability to turn down something that never arrives, right? So we were aware of that. So I've always participated in this stuff. Well, back 14 plus years ago, there was this post made, and it's funny because at the time it felt like I'd been in this community for a really long time. It had matured a lot. I participated a lot, and someone posted, "Is Scott Allen Miller really just a single person in this community? Because look at the amount he posts compared to everyone else." Like there would be weeks where I would post more than the rest of the community combined. My total posts are far north of 250,000 posts, and I only was active on there for 5 years. Like it was a crazy amount of activity. I spoke at conferences. I would be involved in all kinds of things, and there were more than 3,300 responses to the question, how many people am I? And some people will be like, I've met him, at least it's a real person. Maybe there's more people working for him, but this is right, like it would just go on and on and on. And that was something that people had recognized. Thousands of people had recognized, and it's become a big joke. I have friends who point this out. They're like, look what happened all these years ago. That's why you never see him. He never sleeps, right? And that is something I said tonight. I only sleep a few hours a night. I can sometimes go weeks where I'm only sleeping 3 hours a night, and I go straight to the office when I wake up in the morning. I get up, I am checking my messages before I roll out of bed. If I'm going to take a shower, go to the bathroom, whatever, I'm taking my phone with me, I'm messaging the team, I'm checking my calendar, I'm looking at alerts, I'm testing things, I'm working, and then I go straight to my office or to a morning meeting. I really never diverge from one of those two things. And I pretty much work the entire day. I don't take a lunch break. I've not taken a lunch break that I can remember in years. I eat lunch at my desk if I eat lunch, which I normally do, but I eat it at my desk. It's one of the reasons that I have a chef. She brings me my coffee to my desk. She brings me my lunch to my desk. I am so focused on working, I don't want it. It would frustrate me to take a lunch break. Partially because I'm the owner of the company, right? So if I take a break, I'm simply losing that money. A customer's not getting taken care of. Like it's not like an employee who can sign off and go, someone else is going to handle this while I'm gone, or the customer's just going to wait. For me, there's always more work to do. There's always something that could be getting accomplished if I was there. And so doing that is very important for me. I expect my employees to take lunch breaks, and they certainly do. We have a whole mechanism to make sure they can sign out and not have to work the way that I do. They're not expected to work through their lunch except on special occasions. But for me, I always do that, and I work all evening. This evening, I am still working. It's pushing midnight at this point, and a couple hours ago, my youngest daughter came in, and she's so used to how much I work. But they know that I will hang out with them in the evening if they want to hang out. Right now, they're very busy. They're playing video games with their cousins. They got a whole thing going on, but one of the reasons that we homeschool, one of the reasons that I refuse to go to an office is because I do work a lot, and I need to know that at any moment when my kids want to see me, I can drop everything and spend time with them. If they want to just stop in and say hello and check on how I am or have a quick conversation, we talk to each other all day long. We text each other. Their room's right there. I'll walk over. We're constantly interfacing. I couldn't do that if they weren't here, or they couldn't do that if I wasn't here. So we're able to do that. So we know what's going on. We're in communications all throughout the day. But she comes in at 9 o'clock at night and she goes, okay, 1 to 10, how busy are you? And I'm like, actually today was a pretty good day. I'm at a 5. I have no pending emergencies tonight. Certainly have a big workload. She's like, oh, well, I wanted you to cook dinner. And I'm like, no, a 5 you can interrupt, right? Like this is, but this is how she thinks of it. How busy are you? She knows I'm busy, and she knows I'm working on stuff. Is it stuff that completely doesn't matter? Is it stuff that someone's waiting on, but it's not pressing, really pressing? Is there an emergency? Is there a call about to happen? Because sometimes I'm on a call at midnight, right? So she knows to ask that, and I'm like, nope. And I go and I cook them dinner, and I make my special pasta, which is butter sage pasta that I do. And so they had a late dinner from that. But she's so used to it. She knows that's the interaction. That's how we communicate with each other. Like, what is your threshold right now for getting work done? So all of that is really to kind of explain that going out like we did tonight to go to a concert is pretty much always an opportunity for me to be working. Oh, I lost my backlight. Hold on. There we go, a little bit fancier. I'm working on trying to figure out how to make this lighting work. I've got plugged in lights, but then I've got battery powered lights. I gotta find like all the power supplies because I've lost them in all the moves. Anyway, going out to places like we did tonight is a real opportunity for me to do more work, but it's all about finding work that I find more enjoyable. One of the things that I've always done since I was very little is anytime I had something that I found interesting, such as gardening or music, it was always my goal to take that thing and find a way to turn it into something professional, into a job, into a career, into a business. I've always looked at the world that way. Hobbies, to me, and I totally understand other people and having hobbies that they do with no desire to make them into a business, but I have very little understanding of why people hate turning hobbies into business. If it's something you like doing, why would you want to go do something you don't like doing all day long? For me, it's difficult because all the different jobs I've had over the years, photographer, musician, IT professional, engineer, restaurateur, hotelier, accountant, you name it, all of those jobs I enjoyed. And so for me, they were all hobbies in a way that I was turning into a job. Some are much better at that, photographer, for example, than accounting, but I really enjoyed doing all those different positions and the variety of life that it brought. And so for me, I like turning everything I do into a business. For example, I like going out to eat on the beach. I do it a few times a month. I love that I own a hotel and a restaurant on the beach. It's really a hostel now, and a hotel on the beach, and going out to eat at my place. It makes just going out to dinner once in a while a business thing. I'm looking for how can we improve the menu? How is the service? How are the tables? How can we change the space? Right? Those things I'm only doing it a little bit. I'm not the one who runs the place, but those things run through my mind. I like the art of investment. I like all those different aspects of business. I like it being a part of my life. And so I've worked very hard to integrate the things that I do into my life and make them professional so that I can always do those things. So with going out to dinner, going out and hanging out with friends, this is where we hang out with friends, right? There's very little seeing friends outside of work, but I work with a huge number of my friends, right? My closest cousin, we work together. Tons of my closest friends, we work together. When I have friends, often we end up working together. It's when I get new friends, it's like there's projects we could do together, right? And it may be in my company, it may be completely separate, like just something I can help out with, right? Or something they can, like we just have some interest, maybe it's just a little side project. But we get all kinds of things like that. And that's kind of how I interact with people. That is my interface to the world is, cool, these are people I like. I'd like to spend more time with them, but what is the option, right? I want to sit around, have a beer, and just stare at the sky. No, I want to sit around, have a beer, and do something interesting and productive. And so I'm always trying to find ways to take things I like to do, make software, make videos, take pictures, whatever, and combine it with people I like spending time with, right? And then, of course, I also like my solitude. And so I spend that time with the people in my little camera, right? And find ways to be productive and work with this. So the vlog is a really important outlet for me to have all these things I like to do. I like to go for walks. I like to visit new places. I like to try new restaurants. But it allows me to not just make it, hey, I'm going to drive across town and try a new restaurant. And then you get that look, do you really need to do that? Is the food here not good enough? Right? That's not what happens. Instead, it's, I'm going to film. I'm going to make it interesting. I'm going to, do it for a reason. I have purpose to it. I'm going to drop off information while I'm there. I'm going to stop and do this other thing. And it makes it a reason to go do things that I really enjoy anyway. And I like taking the video. I like making the vlog. I like editing the videos. I hate being behind. I like when I'm ahead and I have plenty of time and I'm relaxed and I'm like, just get to do this edit. I get to make this video. Like right now, I'm not rushed. This feels great, but I like having something to do. I like being productive, and that means my life is completely packed. So I don't really have, I'm not saying it never happens, but I really rarely have time with my family where I'm not working, or I'll be hanging out with them, but there's always work going on in the background. And when I go home for Christmas, I work through all that time, right? I don't take time off when I'm up there at all. Like that is not at all what happens. I work during that trip. The only time I ever get downtime is while I'm on a flight. And, when hanging out with friends, one of the things we do, we go out several nights a week to make that something that I'm really able to fit into my schedule and not feel really antsy about. Is I've taken on this ability to live stream and to film and to photograph and to try to help the bands and promote the restaurants and get the word out and communicate. Like, I'm taking things that we like to do, ways to hang out with our friends, and adding it to my lifestyle in a way that I can do that. But that's why it's like that. The chances that you're going to see me go out to a restaurant have nothing to do, right? I have no camera, I have no anything, I'm just watching a show. It can happen, of course, right? Date night with my wife, yeah, we'll probably do that, maybe. But even then, she knows, right? And she likes what that productivity creates, right? So it's not like, she's so frustrated by it. She's like, this is, it's been 22 years that we've been together, and this is, if you're with me, this is the personality you signed up with, right? For if this is the things you like about me are created by me being this way, right? So you like the fact that I love animals, and you like the fact that I get lots of things done. I'm always productive, and I have all these different aspects to my life, and it makes me a very different person than a lot of people are used to. But it also makes me very hard to understand. And I think that a lot of people are very surprised when, you come in, you're like, oh, hey, Scott, I'm coming up next week. I've got like 4 different people who are like, I'm coming up in the next, whatever weeks. Are you going to be around? Yep, I'm going to be around because I'm working, right? And people will say things, when do you have free time? Never. It's not a thing. I don't ever have free time. I have backlogged work for forever. Right? So it's not a matter of when do I have free time. If you ask that question, that to me is just if you're ever bored, I'm willing to hang out with you. Like, I'll feel so badly for you, but there's no way I will ever have free time. The question should be, okay, when you are able to deprioritize work a little bit to prioritize some time with me, I'd like to do this thing. I need to know, like how much you're looking to do that. I need to know when you want to do that, how to fit it into my schedule, because I truly don't have downtime. I truly don't have and I have nothing to do now. Absolutely doesn't happen. Not at all. Even when the power's out, right? If something goes on, the internet's out, the power's out, I have so many things I need to do during that time. And so many more things because I'm falling behind and now I've got to deal with the power being out. It actually makes me more stressed, more busy. But there just isn't, and I'm surprised that other people have this because this is so totally foreign to me. I can't imagine what it would be like to actually have free time where there's nothing to do. I have time where I could push off the work that I have, and sometimes I do, but I don't have time where there isn't work to be done, and there isn't really a time when I'm not sleeping, and I don't sleep enough, so there's never, any time that I give up some sleep, it means I've lost sleep. I'm not getting enough sleep, and a lot of times people are asking me, pressuring me a lot to do things, and they're like, can't you just go to bed later? It's like, yeah, I probably would not die, but I've not slept. I'm at the point where I feel like throwing up from lack of sleep, and I'm not able to get it because I have so much work that has to be done. When people pressure me, and that's not, right now I'm pretty good, but like 3 weeks ago, I was at the point where I was really feeling sick because I couldn't get enough sleep, and it's like, that's what you're asking me in those cases. Now, during the day, when people just don't think, you can say when you have free time. I don't have free time. That's not a thing because of my career, because of the way I work. Absolutely, there's no concept of free time. But there are many things that I'm willing to push off so that I can spend time with people that I care about, and that's absolutely fine. That's how life is, and I think it's a lot healthier lifestyle, right? Basically, if you have free time, that implies you are bored, and I at no point turn on the television and go, "What's on?" Never. Haven't done that since I was a little kid. That is so foreign to me that life could be so boring that you would watch whatever's on, right? I do not ever watch sports. When I see sports, I talk about it sometimes on the channel. It is only when I'm going to an event with friends and I'm working at it and I'm supporting my local community, and I don't really watch the game that much. It's all about hanging out with my friends and putting all these things together. Part of my lifestyle. It is not about watching a game. Other times it is because I have a friend friends who are in the sport, and I'm there to be supportive, right? And then often almost always, right, I would be there working as well. All right, I'm gonna be there as a photographer. All right, I'm gonna be there as a videographer. All right, I'm gonna be there supporting the team, like actually getting the word out about the team or whatever. That's how I'm supportive of friends, right? I'm there when they need me, and I'm there doing productive things for them. That's fine, but I'm not likely to want to just sit there and stare and go, yeah, nice, okay, right? It's just not who I am. It means I find everything in life so exciting that I'm always on to something to do. And if you were to say, okay, everything you're working on is on hold, there's no way for you to work on any of it, now you have free time, I would be like, well, and assuming my kids don't want to hang out, right? At every moment, it's my kids want to hang out, I drop everything. But if they don't want to hang out and you take all my projects away, I've got things that feel like work that I will instantly fill that gap. Oh, there's all this software that I've wanted to make that I've never thought I had the time to start on. I have things I want to learn, but it takes focus. I need to sit down and spend some time and really learn these new things. Now I can do that. I'm going to, sit down, buckle down with a video game, because I can go years without playing a video game for real. I love video games, but I will actually go years between getting into a video game and putting the time into it. That's how busy I am. Things that I really love, years in between. It's been, I don't know, a year since I sat down and really watched a movie where I wasn't like doing it because someone else was watching a movie and I'm trying to spend time with them and probably working at the same time. So it's this really big thing to have this free time. So I'd be like, oh, video game. Okay, now I'm going to prioritize this. I'm going to camp out and like really seriously get into this video game. I did that. It's so funny. I feel like I did it recently, but it was the original Mass Effect. So it was like at least 9 to 10 years ago, right? And I really did it with Fable 2. When we were pregnant with my daughter, who's just about to turn 15, right? So those are the recent games that I got really into, and my memory of loving video games is so old. I have no idea what games are like now. I barely see them, even though my kids play them all the time, and I'm constantly helping them shop and choose. I don't get to play them myself. So that's, I would instantly have so many things that are so far in the back burner, so that you would never guess that I'd be interested in it. And I'd be like, oh, I've got this idea for this project. Oh, this thing I've been waiting to learn. Oh, this game I've been wanting to play. I would have that time filled instantly. And you'd be like, oh, no free time again. No, but I can deprioritize these things and go do things, right? Like and I think this is a really healthy thing, that people think they need to have all this free time in which to just be bored, right? And I'm just gonna stare at the wall. I'm just gonna, and they say those things, having free time is a sign of depression. I'm super not depressed, right? Like I have my sad moments, I have my blue days, but in general, I'm not just an outwardly happy person. I'm actually generally happy because I spend my time with my kids, and when I'm working, if my kids aren't in here, my dogs definitely are. My family is all within this house. Everybody's nearby. I get to see my friends several times a week. Yes, it's out at a lively place. Yes, I go and work while I see them. That's who I am. Like they wouldn't like who I was, or they wouldn't find me to be the same type of person if I was just sitting around doing nothing. I would learn my Spanish faster if I had nothing else to do. But again, if I wasn't doing anything else, practicing Spanish would be much higher on my list, and I would just roar through Duolingo and take all kinds of I would just take as many classes as I possibly could, because I'd be filling myself with things that interest me and things that are good for me or good for the environment or whatever. So that's who I am. And I know on the show, or I'm coming to realize that on the show, it's not something that people realize. When I say I'm so busy, I'm literally saying I'm working over 100 hours a week. I am to a point where I cannot sleep, and there is no such thing as free time. I don't take even dinner. I'm still at my desk working, and I'm not complaining, because that is the world I've created, and that is how I like to be. But when I say I'm having a week where I'm pushed beyond my limit, it is truly pushed to there's not enough sleep. There's no way for me to get things done. I'm pushing a breaking point, because I always push so hard. But that's a little bit of what makes me me, and I hope helps explain to you guys, because I do want to engage with you guys, and I do want to, and when I don't get back really fast on email, there are entire like 48-hour periods where I can't sit down and get to my email to respond to you. Like literally, and it drives me up the wall. Like if you guys are frustrated and how long it takes me to get back to you, imagine it's even worse for me. I guess I was going to say, no, it is worse for me. Imagine that that's the case, because I'm spending all this time going, I know they're waiting and I know they're frustrated and I can't sit down and respond. It's one of the reasons I like having a chauffeur or a driver, because then I can be responding to people. When I'm just driving, that frustrates me because it's not productive and my brain is just going through all the things that people are waiting on and that I could be doing if I wasn't driving. And that was the battery dying on the camera, and that is enough about me. That I just want to make all you guys understand that I really am busy. And the point is not to be like, oh, he's so busy, it's such a problem. No, no, no. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm busy because I like so many things. I am busy because I fill my life with exciting things to me, that make me happy. And I have to have a full schedule and prioritize the things that I like best. And that's not something I can change. It doesn't matter whether you say, okay, you're only allowed to work 40 hours a week and the rest of the week you have to just do nothing, right? I would still have an endless amount of things that I wished I could do, and I would have to prioritize those that fit into the first 40 hours. And I would just have to, be less happy the rest of the time. But I have so many things that I wish I could do that they fill endless lifetimes. And so it is not a matter of simply creating more free time and making things better. That does not solve it. And it is not that I'm sad that I fill this time. I find life and learning and work and hobbies and challenges to be immensely rewarding, and I don't want there to be empty time. And so, because I will just miss out on something. I want to fill my every possible moment with things that are wonderful. And that includes the people that I care about and that are around me. But in order to get to them, right, I have to add them into the priority. They have to be a part of that priority, and I have to know to do that. And it is much easier for all of you, when you want to be a part of that time, to understand that that is how I work. This is what you're dealing with, and communicate more clearly. My friends who are here that deal with me every day, they know more or less that this is true. They know that if they come to the house, I'm not sitting around doing nothing. They will always come to the house. Someone else will always get the gate. Someone else will always let them in if they're here for money, because a lot of people work for me. Someone else will always pay them. Everything is handled because I'm always busy. And it's not that I can't prioritize those things. It's that it would interrupt something. So if they're not here to hang out, if they're not here to actually spend time with me or to have a meeting or whatever, I can't actually stop all these things I'm in the middle of because they came by for 2 minutes. I just can't. And so that's one of the reasons that I have so much staff. It's one of the reasons that people coming to bring me a bill and requiring me to stop everything I'm doing to get to that frustrates me so much, because that costs me 15 minutes that then comes out of somewhere else, right? So everyone I know who's here, they know, right? I'm going to be filming tonight. That's where they're going to get to see me. Right? I'm going to go see friends performing. I'm going to go help promote their band. That's going to be my project for the night. That's where I'll be. But they can talk to me. They can hang out with me. We can have a beer. We can do all kinds of fun things. And sometimes when it's super late and we're too tired to do anything, then sometimes I go out. Very, very little, because I need sleep. But that's how I work. So understanding that it's not about, hey, if you're bored, let's get together. No, it's got to be, here's when we're available. Can you make time? Let's do this, right? Make it a priority, make it clear to me what the priority is, and I will do everything I can to make that happen, because I do want to spend time with everyone, and I do, it's also worth noting, I do not see or hear innuendo. This is something my wife has had to struggle with her entire life, because she speaks in innuendo. She says things like, what's for dinner? That's how she says she's hungry. When I say what's for dinner, it means it actually implies most likely that I am not hungry, and I want to know how much I have to develop hunger by the time we're going to eat, because people get sad if they make food and I don't want to eat it. So I need time to prepare, like skipping a meal or not having a snack or having lots of water now, or doing a little bit of exercise, or just mentally preparing myself to look forward to the meal so that I will be hungry at the time that it's going to be made, right? I in no way ever imply something solid from saying what's for dinner. I just want to know what's for dinner. Why I want to know that, I didn't feel you needed to know, but you can't guess it from me saying it. But my wife uses this phrase of one thing and she reliably means this other thing and expects you to know it. I don't expect you to have any guess, right? I expect no action to be taken by me asking, what's for dinner, other than telling me what's for dinner. My wife doesn't care what you're going to say is for dinner. She only cares that it's available right away now. Right? I could just as easily or more likely hope it's not available. And so that's a huge difference. There's lots of people speak with they think people understand more than they do, and most humans do understand more when you're someone like me. So my wife and I actually have like inverse personality problems where she speaks really heavily in innuendo and believes everyone knows exactly what she means. And I have so much problem with innuendo that I don't notice when people are using it. So I can't identify when to ask for help. Right? Because it's one thing to be, I'm also colorblind, right? Well, with colorblind, I can often spot places where I'm not seeing a color graduation, and I can go to someone and say, okay, I think there's some color thing here, what's going on? And it's a little bit like I'm not like clueless, I just can't see all the colors. But with innuendo, I literally don't know because I only hear the literal words. I can't get, so if it's written and a computer would think it, that's what I will think, right? And that's one of the reasons I can program really well is because I see the world kind of the way a computer does. The language exists for the purpose of the words you say. But most people have some amount of innuendo in how they speak. And so my wife has an extreme amount, more than anyone I know. And I have an extreme amount of not being able to detect it or decipher it. And sometimes I'll be like, I'm sure you're speaking in innuendo, but I cannot tell what you're trying to say. I have nothing to work with. And like when she says, what's for dinner? It gives me nothing. Why would that imply that you're hungry? To me, it doesn't, right? It's not even at the top of my list of things I'm likely to be wondering about it for. I can see why it's one of the things on the list, but how would I guess which thing on the list you're feeling at that moment? And yet other people can, but I don't know how. I don't know what they're doing to get that information out of that. So this huge gap, that adds to when people say, you know, if you've got free time, to me, I hear, if you have free time, no priority, lowest possible priority, not a thing for us, but if you want to do something, you know, we'd be up for it. And I do, if everything was to get canceled, I'd be like, hey, I do have nothing going on. But that really never happens. I have so much stuff that actually does have someone waiting for me that there never is such a time that I even have the time to be like, okay, I'm just working on personal projects now, I've got nothing else. That never happens. I always have to say, okay, I've done so much for other people, clients. I don't mean like people preying on me. I mean, people who are paying me to do stuff. At some point, I have to be like, okay, I've done so much for the people that are paying for me. I have to do some of my own stuff because it makes me happy. It makes me, you know, excited about keeping working. And so I need to sit down and rejuvenate by doing something that's purely of interest to me and not necessarily purely for work. It's one of the reasons I do the vlog, right? This is not for paying customers. This is because it rejuvenates me, and I need that type of hobby work in addition to normal everyday work. Thanks for joining me. Way more than a little bit, a very long diatribe about who I am, but it occurred to me tonight just how much people don't really have any idea who I am or what I'm like. Your view of me through the channel is so skewed, I'm sure, right? And I don't know what it's like because I have all this context that you do not. And so it's very difficult for me to imagine what it's like to know me only through this channel. I know so many people from the channel who know me already, and then the channel is just like, this is this extra little piece of me, right? My childhood friends watch this, they know who I am, so this just kind of fits into that. But so many of you, thousands of you, know me only from these videos, and it would be so easy to be like, oh, I really didn't picture him like this at all, right? It's easy to picture me. I own a hotel on the beach. You probably picture that I go to the beach and hang out. I never go to the hotel. Twice a month, legitimately, is about it. And I stay there once every 3 to 4 months at best, right? Just a few times a year. And almost always it's because we have an event, we're there, and then we're going out to support friends with their business at like Pelican Surf. We want to, you know, get out there and help their business, and then we're there late. We don't want to take a taxi, and there's a room available, so I stay. But then it's not even a plan. It's because there's a room available late at night. They're not going to fill it. Well, I don't have to pay for a taxi now, so I'll stay. Things like that is often the only way it happens. Mostly I'm out there for dinner and very rarely. And normally it's because there's an event or something happening at the hotel where they need some support, like their wireless is down. Thanks for joining me. I'll see all of you tomorrow.